Welcome back to Hot Flashes and Cool Topics. Today we have on Melissa DaSilva, who is president of the Travel Corporation Tour Brands. Travel is Bridget and that's our love language. We love traveling. And I think for our demographic of 50 plus, we appreciate it so much more now than we did before. So welcome to the show, Melissa. Thanks for being on.
Thank you so much for having me.
We have been doing work. Trafalgar was a sponsor of our Conversations with Prime Women event. Thank you very much. And women were so excited. They couldn't, like, they just were like, really? A travel company? People just want to travel. I don't know if it's a combination of the pandemic or a combination of the age demographic in the pandemic, but have you seen an uptick in travel over the last year?
We have, and I'm sure many people saw images even on the news this summer, but everybody wanted to get back out and travel once everything was fully opened back up again. And we've seen an amazing resurgence of not only women, but families and couples, just people who want to absolutely go out and explore the world. So yes, it has been a wonderful rebound after a few years stuck at home.
So you're president of the travel company, which has 6 different lines of tours. 5 of them are group tours.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I really love about your corporation is that you talk about sustainability and you talk about unique tours that discuss culture and populations. Can you talk? I know you're starting something called Make Travel Matter. Can you talk about that initiative?
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned our brands. So we have a number of them, and we love to say that we have tours for any and everyone. So it doesn't matter if you're looking for something that's a little bit less structured and unpackaged, like with our Cost Saver brand, or something all the way up to a fully inclusive luxury experience with something like Luxury Gold. We also have Trafalgar, which you mentioned, which is great for families. Insight Vacations, a little bit more premium. But what they all have in common is exactly what we said, that our foundation of really wanting to give back to the communities that we visit. It's incredibly important to us that we're leaving these places in a better shape than we even found them, so that they're there for generations of travelers to come. And our Make Travel Matter experiences are things that we have included in our itineraries that do exactly that. And they not only connect you with the culture of the destination or perhaps the heritage or the planet, but they're absolutely financially giving back to the places that we visit as well. So they're usually, small, independently owned. Many of them are business or indigenous owned experiences where they are really showing our guests something that they probably wouldn't get to see on their own. So we love to champion that. Every single one of our itineraries worldwide includes a minimum of one Make Travel Matter experience. And I think, I'm sure your listeners are just like me. We want to know when we travel that we're having a positive impact. And whenever you travel on one of our trips, you absolutely are. So yeah, one of the things that every one of our brands has in common.
So, when you are doing these with groups, how large are the groups, and is there a maximum amount of group tours or that are people that are
Great
in the group?
question. Yeah, it varies by brand. So that's why I say tours for any and everyone. So with like Trafalgar, you could have a maximum of 50 people on a trip. And with our small groups with Insight and Luxury Gold, you're talking about a total of about 24, average of about 20. If you did go with Brendan, you mentioned we had one brand that does custom trips. So you can go with as few as one person and as many as 200. So it's totally up to you as to how big you want it to be. And we really have worked with these individuals to have experiences that cater to whichever the group size is that's coming in. So really great example in Ireland. We go to the Sustainable Coastal Food Tours, and it's out on the Wild Atlantic Way. And this is a individual or an organization, a family, a run business that showcases how seaweed or algae in particular is so critical to not only the environment. I don't know if you know that 50% of our air comes from the algae in the oceans, even more than the rainforest. But also it's got medicinal purposes. It's been a food source for the people in Ireland for over 10,000 years, since the very early settlers. And so he has this amazing opportunity for our guests to go down to the coast to actually forage and harvest some seaweed. They come back, they, either taste it or cook with it or have it included in their meal. And so it's just a really cool experience where they get to learn about the history and the culture, but also have an impact on, maintaining the Wild Atlantic Way and the environment in Ireland. So it's very, very cool.
Very immersive.
Yeah.
It sounds like, is there like an age limit or anything? Is there certain trips that might say, this isn't so good for this age group or anything like that?
Again, it's going to differ by brand, but we really want to welcome everybody on our trips. We do say children need to be at least 5. And I really would say, to have the most, especially if you're traveling overseas, I would say probably 7, 8, 9 is probably a little bit better of an age, but we've got some amazing experiences in the US that are even great for littler kids. What I love about our trips is that they do cater to everyone. So even if you have children on a trip, it is not like it's geared towards little kids. It is something for everybody. And I think that's why we get a lot of multi-generational travel. So we'll get grandparents with their children and their grandchildren all traveling on our trips. And it's great because there's not that one person who's stuck doing the planning. I don't know if you're like me, but I am always the one that gets stuck doing all the planning. Somehow that falls on the woman. And it's not a vacation for me. So I love going on a tour where everything is taken care of and I can just relax and be in the moment with whoever it is that I'm traveling with.
It's so true. You spend hours and hours planning this trip that's supposed to be vacation, and by then you're too exhausted to really even enjoy part of it.
Exactly.
Yeah, people are mad at you if they don't like it. That's my
You
big
can't
thing.
please it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
And that's also a nice thing about group tours is when you say, you can't please everyone, but in a group, there's different things for everyone to do. So you're going to get something on that trip that is of value to you. Hopefully more than
1000%. Yeah, I love it. And then especially with your free time, you can even opt to do different things. So you might want to go do, a food walking tour, and somebody else might want to just go shopping downtown, and that's fine. You can separate because there's going to be people like you mentioned that you can hang out with and have that shared experience.
With the Make Travel Matter, I know that there were like 3 categories: planet, people, and wildlife. Can you talk about those 3 categories?
Yeah, and I think I touched a little bit how the seaweed farm experience does both, right? So you are engaging with the local community, but you're also giving back to the planet. So it's really important to us that we're doing that. Our experiences fit in those 3 pillars. So planet is very much about our commitment to sustainability and preserving the actual planet and where we're traveling to. So in addition to our Make Travel Matter experiences, our entire organization is committed to net zero. So we are on a road to remove all or becoming carbon zero by 2050 in line with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And this is a massive undertaking. If you think about it, it has to be throughout the entire chain of the vacation. We're in the process of putting coaches on the road that are going to be either biofuel or electric. All of our hotels, we're making sure that we're going with those that have followed the green, whatever it is in their country, certification. So there's a lot of different steps in there. We've made huge progress. We actually own 2 properties with one of my brands, Kentucky. We have a Gasthof in Austria and we have a chateau in France, and those have been completely overhauled. They're all run off of solar energy. We've gone through all of the food waste to make sure that we're not, negatively contributing to landfills by having food that goes unused. We make sure that all of our food is locally sourced so that we're not, adding to the carbon footprint of having food brought in. So that's the kind of thing that we're doing on the road to net zero and our protection of the planet. When it comes to people, that's probably where we have the most experiences. And that's really where we want to make sure that we're showcasing local heritage to make sure it's around for years to come. My favorite one that I talk about all the time is this amazing woman called Marta. And she is from Italy, just outside Puglia. And she weaves on a 900-year-old loom. And she learned this from her grandmother, who taught her, who learned it from her grandmother, who learned it from her grandmother. And when we met her about, I want to say it was about 14 years ago, She was literally, I think she said she was about 14 days away from closing the door on her studio because she hadn't figured out how to make enough money to sustain herself. And so she was going to have to close the doors and go get a normal job. And so we worked with her to develop a business model where we would bring our guests in to learn about this amazing craft that she could do. And they would get to watch her weave on this loom, and she would tell stories about how she learned it from her grandmother. And what's so amazing is that over the years, she's been able to really build up a beautiful business, where not only has she been able to keep this alive, but she's brought on a apprentice, sorry, the word escaped me for a second, which is actually her niece. So this isn't going to now, die. This is going to be something that lives on forever. And our guests get to have this experience that, you know, you wouldn't get to have on your own. You wouldn't just meet Marta on the road and she wouldn't just get to invite you into her studio. So it's really, really special. And then, the last one would be obviously wildlife. So for many, 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 many years, we make sure that nothing that we do is, we don't go to ride an elephant in Thailand, but we still know that people want to have an experience where they interact with wildlife. So instead, we take them to sanctuaries where these elephants have actually been saved, and they get to have an experience there where they learn all about why they have to save the elephants in the first place. It's more of a learning opportunity, but they also then do get to feed these elephants and things like that. So it's not that we're taking away these experiences, it's that we're really supporting them in a very different way. And especially our trips in Africa, you can imagine we do lots and lots and lots around wildlife preservation.
How do you find these different things? How do you find Marta? How do you find these people in all of these places?
We have a team that is spread out across the globe. So our product experiences team, they're local in those destinations, or they spend an inordinate amount of time there. So they're asking questions and they're just talking to locals and saying, who do you know? And then that's really how it all starts, is we end up going to them. Most of them, as I mentioned, don't even have businesses when we first engage with them. And then we sort of help them with knowing that they're going to have sort of this steady stream of business coming in, so that they know that they can build their business and invest in it. So it's a little bit less risk for them to start a business, knowing that they've got the support of our brands behind them.
What are some of the new offerings coming in 2024? Just sign
Great
Bridget and
question.
I up for them now.
Great question. There's not a ton of new coming in 2024, to be honest with you. As I mentioned, 23 was really our first full year back. But we did, I did mention that we've added Make Travel Matter to every single itinerary. So that is very new for us. What else? We're going to be doing a lot more with our younger brand, Kentucky. We're going to be doing more pride trips, which is very exciting. That's one of the things that we started right before the pandemic, but we only got, I think, one departure off before we were closed down for a few years. So now we've got them in many different destinations. So that's super exciting. And then for Insight Vacations, we do have our small groups. So I did mention that at the beginning. So those are offered on many of our itineraries. You have an option now of whether you want to go with the full group, which is a max of 40, or whether you want to go small group, because we know more and more people want to travel as a smaller group, with a max of 24.
Now, do you cover like all types of modes of travel? Are there cruises? Are there rail? What all do all of your different experiences include?
Yeah, great question. So mostly we're going to travel by motor coach, but we do have certain itineraries, like our Contrast of Switzerland, for example, which is by rail. So there are some rail vacations that we offer. We also have several on our Kentucky brand. Most of our trips in Greece will offer you a cruise add-on. So you can do either a 3 or 7 night island hopping experience. That's a cruise add-on. We also have that up in Alaska. So yeah, we have a wide variety. In Ireland with Brendan Vacations, you can also opt to do a self-drive. In addition, we have private chauffeur vacations. So you can be a little bit more indulgent in Ireland and maybe have somebody drive you around and not have to be on the other side of the road.
That would be frightening. Having my husband self-drive on the wrong side of the road, no, that would be chauffeur's a great idea.
I agree.
So with so many different options, do you find that the 50 plus community, leans towards one or two of the tour brands?
Actually, no. So the average age across all of our brands, except for Kentucky, which is our youth brand, is 62. And so, the variance is like 59 to 64. And so, no, really, all of our brands appeal to that age demographic for sure. It's more about what is that specific experience that they're looking for that indicates which brand that they would want to travel with. So I mentioned cost saver. There's a lot less included on a cost saver, which is why it makes it less expensive. But the reason why that then appeals to a different set of people is because there's a lot more free time. So for people who aren't interested in the kind of tour where everything is planned out for them, but they know they want the security and the ease of having all of their accommodation booked and all of their transportation booked and having a travel director there to give them advice and, insights, it's a really great option. It's also great, you mentioned, for families who everybody has something different that they want to do. So that's great. When you get to your destination, you're not locked in or feeling like you need to do the included experience. You can go off and do one of our optional experiences. When you travel with Insight Vacations, for example, it's a more premium experience. So maybe it's somebody who's celebrating a 40th wedding anniversary. And so they want to do something that's a little bit more inclusive and a little bit higher end. So I don't think it's necessarily that the brand appeals to a certain age demo. It's what is that experience that they're looking to have.
Right. And then, it also would depend on physically what a person could do. And sometimes that could be with your age, but sometimes some people are real go-getters. So I'm sure that is an issue as well. And what about safety concerns
Yeah.
wherever you travel?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we will always have a travel director with them, and there's usually a driver as well. We never have a driver and a travel director at never the same person. And I think that that's very important. You want to know that your driver is 100% focused on just driving you and not having to like navigate traffic while they're giving you information about the place that you're visiting. We typically are going to find that our tours are only in places where it is safe to travel. We're not going to be the first people into a destination that's just opened up. So the majority of our trips are going to be into places where there's usually a very well-established infrastructure for travel. All of our hotels and all of our experiences I mentioned previously have been personally vetted by our teams on the ground. And so I also think that for people traveling solo, group travel is an amazing way to go because you have that security of knowing that there are other people around should you not want to be alone at any given time. So I love to say that it's, you can be on your own, but never alone. So there is that added sense of security there as well. So, and then if anything is ever, if there's ever any, I don't know, unrest that's, not foreseen, then of course we're going to have that huge infrastructure on the ground that's going to help our team, get to a location that is secure.
With the travel, is air included? And
Air is not included, but we do offer air. And the reason for that is we know a lot of people maybe want to use their points or they, whatever it happens to be. So we don't require that people purchase our airfare, but it is absolutely one of the things that we offer. You can't go on vacation if you can't get there.
what are some of the most popular tours?
Oh, that's so easy. Italy, like top 5, Italy. Everybody, that's where they want to go. And I don't blame them. There's so many different amazing experiences to have in Italy, whether you're seeing, just the 3 biggies with, Rome, Florence, and Venice, or if you're maybe getting a little bit off the beaten path and you're going up into the northern part of Italy and visiting Cinque Terre and the mountains. And oh my gosh, so beautiful. Great Britain, incredibly popular, all of the different countries through there. So whether it's, England, Scotland, Wales, Ireland, we are also seeing more and more people wanting to go down to Switzerland. So Switzerland has always been included in many of our multi-country trips, and more of our single country and regional trips have now been Switzerland. Now, some of the hot destinations that are up and coming, well, I mean, I shouldn't say up and coming, but just resurging, Spain and Portugal, very popular right now. And Greece, I think it was probably the busiest year ever for Greece. But if we're not talking about Europe, then I would have to say all of our national parks tours, hugely popular. It's amazing because we get you into the park. You get to stay in the park on nearly all of our itineraries. Your hotels are located right in the park. And, you know, some of these, you go to Yellowstone, I mean, it's the size of several large states in the US, right? So to have somebody who can give you some, you know, information about where to go, when to go, you know, all of that, it's just really much for, I don't want to say it,
I mean, you don't
impactful,
waste
I think,
time.
than just,
Yeah.
yeah, driving through and not knowing what you're seeing.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't imagine at the time that you save whenever I use a travel, then the time I've wasted when I thought that I could figure something out on my own.
Yeah.
There's just no, there's no
That
comparison.
also comes with age. We realize
Yes,
we
it
don't have
does.
to reinvent the wheel. We can
That's
just
right.
rely on the
Hmm.
experts to do it. Now, as
Right.
someone who is not a huge travel bus fan, um, when I when I was looking into yours, they're not just a typical travel bus. Like you're talking luxury. Can you discuss it? Just share a little bit about what the tour buses are like?
Yeah, they're beautiful. So none of our coaches is ever going to be more than 2 years old, and they're completely kitted out with, you know, your charging stations. There's typically going to be, well, there's always a bathroom, so you don't need to worry. We make frequent stops, but if there's ever, you know, an emergency, then there's always a bathroom on board. They're super comfy. The seats all recline. There's plenty of room for your day pack above your head, so it's not down by your feet. If you are traveling with Insight Vacations or Luxury Gold, because we have fewer people on those trips, we actually pull out all of the extra seats and we reconfigure it. So it's almost like having business class seating on your coach. So you get like an extra, I think it's 11 inches of leg room. You could put your legs out. I'm 5'8". I can put my legs out completely straight and not touch the seat in front of me. So it's really, really a comfortable experience. The windows are massive. So wherever you are traveling, you're going to have an amazing view. And I don't think people think about that. They think about the time on the coach as being, I don't know, boring, but you have to get from point A to point B no matter what. So why not do it in a really comfy environment where you can actually look at the beautiful scenery that you're passing? Particularly, you know, some of these places I mentioned, like who doesn't want to stare out the window at the Swiss Alps while you're, you know, traveling from point A to point B? So it's a really, I think, great and easy way to travel. And our drivers are impeccable. And the beautiful thing is you go on one of our trips, you will never, ever, ever, you will just think they magically somehow get fuel and they're just clean every single day. But I promise you, it's all happening in the background. So our guests don't see any of it, but they just come on to a beautiful, clean, pristine coach every single morning.
And the accommodations, can you share, earlier we were talking about your branded vacations, and can you talk a little bit about that and the castle thing and everything like that?
100%. All of, like I said, everything is personally vetted. So you're going to be staying in, you know, wonderful accommodation wherever you go. We do try to make sure that it's representative of the region that you're in. Where we can, we love to use local properties. Brendan Vacation, which is our Celtic specialist, we do Ireland and Scotland only. We always recommend that somebody stay at least one night in a castle. So we do all custom vacations, whether it be rail or self-drive, or as I mentioned, chauffeur. And we can basically put together an itinerary where you can stay only in castles, our legendary castle program, where, you know, we recommend you spend at least 3 nights at Dromoland and Ashford Castle, which are stunning properties. Ashford Castle is normally ranked number 1 or number 2 of the top hotels in Europe. And it is a beautiful property that used to be owned by the Guinness family. And it just recently underwent about, I want to say it's a 60 million euro renovation. And it is stunning. But the best thing about it is that it's so warm and welcoming when you arrive. There's nothing stuffy about it. And you get to have these amazing estate activities as well. So you can go on a hawk walk, and you can have these beautiful falcons. Sort of, you learn all about how they train them from the falconry school, or you can go on a hike with the Irish wolfhounds, or you can take a boat out on the loch or the lake that's right in front of the castle. It's just the most magical experience. And I'm speaking from experience. When I celebrated my 50th birthday, we went with my two best friends to Ireland, and we had a chance to stay there. And I have to say, it was magical.
Just sign me up, honestly. Like, just where do I sign? Uh, Along those lines, are there seasonal tours that only happen? Well, let's say, like Bridget did a tour of the Christmas areas
Markets, right.
markets.
Yeah.
Are there certain seasonal tours?
Yeah, absolutely. Christmas markets are huge. Other trips that we do that are seasonal, for example, we do fall foliage throughout New England. Those always sell out really, really quickly. No surprise. It's only for a couple of weeks, so we pack as many as we can, but super popular. We do, the tulips in Amsterdam during the spring. St. Patrick's Day in Ireland, obviously, is always a really big one. Halloween is also a big one in Ireland. I don't know if you know, but Halloween started in Ireland. And so there's lots of the Pucca Festival. So lots of people like to go for that. What else? So yes, I would say yes. We do a lot. I don't know. I don't have them off the top of my head, but there's a lot of seasonal tours that we do.
Yeah, I'm so glad you're bringing up the tours in the US as well, because I know in my brain, I go straight to Europe or I go straight to overseas. But, when you brought up the national parks, what are some popular domestic destinations?
So national parks are our number one. Other destinations that are quite popular, we do a Northern California tour, which hits the wine country. So that's quite popular in San Francisco. And there's a few trips that we do that actually go full cross country. And so, yeah, those are really, for people that are just looking to take about a month and go completely across country. The ones that I also think are super fun, we do several in the South that are like Taste and Sounds of the South, for example, where we're hitting, New Orleans and I think
Nashville.
Kansas and Tennessee. And so you're getting a taste of like sort of jazz and, bluegrass and, lots of different music from that style, but also all the barbecue. I'm sorry, but the barbecue is what had me. I'm like, you get to try the different barbecue from all the different places. So yeah, there's lots of little regional tours like that I think are very, very popular, but that one in particular, because it's food and music.
How far in advance do you have to book a tour?
So you can book anywhere up to about 16, 17 months in advance. But the majority of our guests are booking about 5 to 7 months in advance. I think, honestly, if anybody's listening to this thinking about traveling summer 2024, what I will say is that airfare is a challenge. So while the guest wants to get out and travel, the airline industry has not caught up post-pandemic. There was a lot of pilots who took early retirement during the pandemic, and they've not been able to replace all of them. So that is the main issue at the moment. And so I would say the earlier people book, the better. Otherwise, the airfare is going to be quite an obstacle.
And
What
delays
what
and
is the best?
cancellations.
Yes. Oh gosh, and availability. Wow. And
Yeah.
what's the best way for people to book?
Well, if they have a travel advisor, if they work with a travel agent locally, I highly recommend they go see their travel agent. We work with all of the travel agents nationwide. And so if they just walk into their local travel agent, say they heard about us, they'll be able to book them on one of our trips. But if they don't, then they are more than welcome to contact us directly. So they can go to any one of our websites, and we would be happy to help them as well.
And Melissa, it sounds like you have a dream job, like
I
serious.
do.
How did you become the president of the travel corporation?
Oh, so I've been in the industry for about 30 years. And it's funny, I grew up in a very, very, very small town, and I didn't really travel internationally much at all, but my mother had traveled a lot when she was young. So she used to tell us stories all the time. And so my just goal in life when I graduated high school was to leave my small town and travel the world. And I didn't really know how I was going to do that. And so I decided I would get a job or get a degree in journalism, because I thought I see people on the news and they're traveling around the world, and that's what I'll do. I didn't even know about a thing called a travel agent. But while I was working, while I was going to school at UCLA, I ended up getting a job at the travel agency on campus. And so that was really the beginning of it. And I loved it so much. I quit my internship. And then when I graduated, I got a job at a travel agency, and I did that for about 20 years. And I just loved sending people out to experience the world. I worked primarily in student travel. So it was young people going out, it was making this positive impact on them. And so I felt great about it. And so when the position opened up here at the Travel Corporation, I applied for it. That was about 11 years ago. And I started out with just one brand, and that was Kentucky. And then over the course of the last decade here, I've sort of been gifted additional brands. But it's been great because, like I said, it's really fun to know that it doesn't matter what kind of tour somebody wants to take. We do have something for them. So I really love that. But yeah, you're right. My dream, it is a dream job. I get to literally help people's travel dreams come true every day. So it's not like I'm out here pushing a product that people don't need, or or they need but they don't want to pay for it. People love to travel, and we love to make those dreams come true. So it's fantastic.
Yeah,
think-
the big myth too is, that travel's expensive, but there's so many different offerings that really it can be quite affordable.
Absolutely. And I think that, again, going with a tour is a great way if you are on a budget, because everything has already been paid for in advance. So you only have to really account for if you want to buy, souvenirs or, extra something while you're traveling. But if you are on a tight budget, it's a great way to make sure that you don't overspend.
That's true. And you can always ship stuff back. So whatever you buy, Bridget.
100%.
Colleen's the queen of shipping back. She is the
Ship
queen of
this.
shipping
I don't
back.
like I don't like big suitcases, just ship it back.
Yep.
Do you get to travel? Like, do you pick a place every year and say, I want to go somewhere new every year?
I try. Yeah. This year, we went to Greece in March, but we didn't do the islands. So we did mainland Greece, and it was, I can't even tell you, it was amazing. First of all, the weather was super cool. It was only about 65 at the most degrees. And so where we went, we were doing a ton of walking and hiking. And so the weather was just perfect, but we got to see the floating monasteries. We went down to the Oracle of Delphi. We got to do some beautiful little fishing villages like Naphtalion and Naphtactos. And honestly, it was like a dream. And then we spent one night on an island. We went to Hydra, which is so cool. There's no cars at all. So it's either foot traffic or donkeys. And it was wonderful. So highly recommend. And we did a fantastic Make Travel Matter experience just outside of Delphi, where we did like a beekeeping honey farm experience. And it was so cool. And this guy was absolutely obsessed with bees. And we all got to put on the beekeeper costumes, and it was really great.
That's a little scary, but okay.
But
You're
it's
right.
I feel like it's like the best education that you can
And
get.
I think as we get older,
travel.
we appreciate experiences more than things. I
Right.
don't know that you realize that when you're younger, but as you get older, experiences just have such a great value and add to your life. So I would recommend that any of the listeners go to the Travel Corporation website. It lists all the different tours, and don't just go there with 5 minutes, because it's going to take you a long time. There's so many options. Really, there's something for everyone on that website. And we appreciate the fact that you kind of thought of everything for it. So thank you for being on the show today, for what you're doing for travel. And Bridget and I are ready to go wherever you want to go.
Great. We can't wait to have you. Thank you so much for having me. I
Oh, thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thank
Thanks.
you.